Funding for This Is Nashville comes from you, our listeners, and Amazon, proud sponsor of WPLN's daily show, This Is Nashville, engaging our differences so we can discover our unity. More on Amazon's community work at aboutamazon.com.
I'm Khalil Ekolona, and this is Nashville. Nashville has built a national reputation for its hospitality and kindness. But is that accurate for people with disabilities who live and work here in the city? Tennessee spends less than most other states on transportation infrastructure per capita and ranks 38th in the country for demand responses rides per person with a disability, highlighting the state's lack of accessible transportation options. On today's episode, we're talking with 4 Nashvillians about how they get around the city and what they're looking to, what can be done to make Nashville a city that is truly inclusive of everyone. First up, Robbie Barbieri, who was shadowed on a recent trip by WPLN freelance reporter David Harper. Let's listen.
I'm pulling up to a church that I have driven past probably dozens and dozens of times. Not really thought much about it. We're going to look at accessibility, also something I haven't thought much about. Man, I missed you getting out. I'm rolling tape here right now, so...
Oh, wow, we're recording.
So don't say anything bad.
That's Robbie Barbieri, a former football player for Vanderbilt University whose life changed overnight.
Early 2022, driving to dinner on a rainy night, hydroplaned off the road, hit a telephone pole. I have a vivid memory of hanging upside down in my car, and I couldn't feel anything. And my next memory is waking up that night, doctors asking me if I could move my toes or my hands. The answer was no. I had a C4, C5 spinal cord injury, which means below my mid-shoulders shouldn't have any movement. Any movement that comes back is up in the air. There's no guarantee.
Today, Robbie's area disability chair for Alcoholics Anonymous. And that's why we're here, looking at the accessibility of a local meeting location.
To make sure our recovery rooms are open for everyone, I've been going around to different meetings, ensuring that they're ADA accessible. They either have an elevator or a ramp to get in. There's a lot of meetings that claim to be accessible that I showed up, and they're not.
There's a permanent ramp at the church, but the door at the end of it is locked and can't be opened. Fortunately, Robbie's brought a travel ramp, which gives him another option to enter the building, an entryway with just 3 steps.
Hey, my name's Noah. I'm Robbie's caregiver. A lot of places don't have easy access, so we bring these ramps around with us. They're probably 20 to 25 pounds each.
The Americans with Disabilities Act, ADA, has specific guidelines for wheelchair ramps used by the public. The ramp's slope must be no steeper than 1x12, meaning that for every inch of vertical rise, there must be 12 inches of ramp length. The steps Robbie needs to get up to get to his meeting are about 2 feet from ground level. The ramp he needs would need to be about 24 feet long to meet ADA standards. His travel ramp is about 6 feet long.
It's like way out of code. Nobody would ever create a ramp at that angle.
If he wants to get inside the building, this is his only option. The travel ramp isn't only steep, it's narrow. Just an inch wider than Robbie's chair, which he controls via head movements. Anything that could affect this, like a shift in the ramp or muscle spasm, could send his chair off the edge.
I always get pretty nervous when I do this. That's the most dangerous part of it.
It's safer to have a few people involved. So before Robbie goes up the ramp, he and Noah recruit a couple of bystanders to help.
It helps to have people on either side just in case if he has a spasm or something.
And if you could just sit on the left side just in case.
Yeah, what are you just pushing or?
And I'm just gonna
stability.
I'm just gonna go for it.
You're good. Keep going. All right.
Here we go.
And that was it. Except it wasn't. With 4 people helping him, Robbie did make it inside the church, but the steep incline of the ramp caused his front wheels to come off the ground, putting him in a wheelie position, a potentially dangerous situation. And after the meeting, he still had to reverse the entire process, going down the steep ramp to exit the building.
My chair right now, it's about 360 pounds without me in it. Total weight's probably north of 550, so the center of gravity is vital. I go over ramps, that gets adjusted. It's definitely not uncommon to go on two wheels on the side if I'm turning a certain direction or the front two wheels are up. There's really not a perfect environment. In terms of this church, it's probably a 2 out of 10, I'd say.
AARP ranks Tennessee 47th out of 50 on the Transportation Livability Index, indicating poor public transit, walkability, and coordination for people with disabilities. It takes a lot of time and effort for Robbie to do this work, and he puts himself at risk. Once he was safely outside, I asked him why he does it.
Ever since my accident happened, it opened my eyes to a lot of issues I used to never think about. There's not enough voices in that community to propel us forward. The more I got into it, the more upset I got, but also the more hopeful I got. Now it's almost like I have nothing to lose. I'm going to advocate. I'm going to use this outwardly negative thing for something really good.
Not only is Robbie doing advocacy work for Nashville's recovery community, he's literally changed state law to make sure disabled Tennesseans get the care they need. And I want to introduce Robbie right now. Robbie, thank you so much for being here. Welcome to This is Nashville.
Thank you so much for having me. It is nice to meet you, Khalil. I'm very excited to be here.
Really great to have you here. How you doing today?
I'm doing good. There's a lot of work to be done in our community, but right now everything's good. I'm working full time. I'm advocating on the side. There's not a ton of complaints right now, so I'm doing pretty good.
I hear that. Okay, briefly, tell me what your life was like before your accident.
Yeah, before my accident, let's see, I played football at Vanderbilt. I married a soccer player there. We were kind of living a normal 20-something life. We had a house in West Nashville. We had a big dog. I had a job, and we were like just thinking about having kids. And then just like any other night, I was, driving to dinner on a wet road. There thankfully wasn't anyone else in the car, and car veered off the road, flipped, and hit a telephone pole. And at that time, I had no idea what happened. I have no memory of that. And it was overnight. I remember waking up. I broke my C4, C5 vertebrae, and I wasn't able to move below my mid-shoulder. So it was almost like an instant radical shift in my life. So it was a lot. It was a lot.
I imagine. What were your thoughts like those weeks following your accident?
I think, there wasn't a lot of positive thoughts. It was throwing pity parties. It was why me? It was asking things that I could have done differently. It was pretty rough for a while. And then I just like going alongside of that, like there was a learning curve. Like I had to learn basically a whole new way to live without the use of my arms and legs. And it was everything at once, man. It was a lot to take in.
I understand that. As you're adjusting to this new normal, let's say, mentally, emotionally, physically, what's been the most challenging?
Oh, that's a great question. What's been the most challenging is probably number one, independence. I think it's for a person with my level of disability, I rely on caregivers and family members for just about everything. And I went from doing everything for myself to doing almost nothing for myself. And that plays at my pride, that plays at my independence. It's a number of things. So that's been the biggest change so far. And then the other change is just learning what happened in my body. Like, how do I take care of myself now? What can I do for work? Things like that. It's just so many different questions popped in my head. So,
what's helped you? I mean, your accident happened 3 years ago, which is some time ago, but it's really not that long ago.
Mm-hmm.
You're still adjusting to life. What has helped you quiet the negative voices that were in your mind that were going through, that you were experiencing, and push you to this more, for lack of a better term, positive place that you're at now?
Yeah. So I think at one point there was a shift from pity to gratitude. Like I remember it was like 6 or 7 months post accident. I was complaining about everything, pity party, and I don't know what it was, but I kind of had a like aha moment where, okay, like I can complain that I got in this accident, or I can be grateful that I didn't die in the accident. And just like perspective changes like that meant the world for me. And then quickly after that point, I got exposed to advocacy. I met some great people that are in the disability community, and I realized like this is a platform now. Like this could be something that I use for a lot of good.
So you're upset with what happened to you. You're living in the dark, so to speak, and then you get introduced to advocacy, and this is a light suddenly for you to follow. Who were those folks, and what did they do for you?
Yeah. So I would say the first one was my mentor. He is a disability lawyer, and the way that I came into advocacy was I wanted to get a job. Like I wanted to find a way to support my family while I'm going through everything that I'm going through. And I couldn't, because I was told if I wanted a job, I couldn't have more than $2,000 in assets to my name or $2,600 in income. So if I wanted Medicaid services, which I needed. So I was like, well, if I can't get a job, what can I do? My mentor, his name was Josh Bazile, he suggested that I change the law, and did not think that was realistic. Thankfully, I met Darren, who's sitting right here. At the time, he was a representative, and he had worked on a similar project. But I would say those two people have, they changed everything for me. They gave me a lot of hope, and it made me feel like I could make a difference and I could work someday. So.
I do want to talk about the specifics of that law you helped create a little bit later in the show. But, when I look at our country, I see that in the issues in our country, there's a few ways that these things can be approached, either through policy or public opinion or culture. Policies normally change quicker than public opinion. You can make a policy change running through a congressional body. It takes a long time for the public to accept that policy change and to make it a part of our culture. Mm-hmm. In your work, you've helped to change policy and in public opinion. Let me ask you this. Which path have you found to be the more effective one?
That's a great question. And I think in an ideal world, those two things should go hand in hand. But for me, it was making these initiatives personal. I think people hear the word disability and they don't really know what to think. They think of a random person in a wheelchair. But in Tennessee, we have 33% of our population having a disability, 15% actually having a mobility-related disability. There's not a lot of people that come to mind because we're underrepresented as a community. So for me, and I'm sure Darren can shed light on this later, it's like we need more people that rise up and put a face and actually like share their personal accounts. Numbers and facts are one thing, but it was really cool to, like be over at Capitol Hill talking to people and actually telling them how this is affecting my life.
Now, we're going to go to break, but I do want to ask you this. Athletics have been a big part of your life. You were a Fandy football player. What position did you play?
I was an outside linebacker, and we beat Tennessee 2 times. I just want to throw that out there.
Okay. You guys, bragging rights are bragging rights. You've worked to help give Tennesseans with disabilities access to competitive sports. You hold a charity golf tournament. It's called the Music City Wheels Off Classic. Tell me more about that.
Yeah, so I was a big athlete in college and then was a big golfer after. And I thought golf and things like that were done when I got in my accident. I got introduced to this new game. It's called Adaptive Golf, and I'm hosting a charity event to raise money for that, as well as raise money for children with disabilities and getting them outside, getting them to do clinics. So we have a few teams left. If you're interested, go to musiccitywheels.com. It's a great cause, and this will be a charity golf tournament for years to come, hopefully.
How does adaptive golf work?
Yeah, so it actually is, it looks like a regular golf club, and you put an empty round in, like kind of like you would a rifle, and it doesn't actually shoot a bullet, but we can aim it like with our body movements, and then you fire the club, you pick the distance, shot trajectory. It's kind of like playing Tiger Woods video game, but in real life. It is awesome.
What's your handicap?
Oh man, I think it's like probably a 15. Like it's lower than what you would think, because oh man, like you can be accurate. I had it at Top Golf, and we were just like drilling in on targets and everything.
Nice. Okay, we're going to take one short break. All right, when we come back, we'll be joined by State Representative Darren Jernigan to talk about a new law that benefits working adults with disabilities. Stay with us. This is Nashville.
Funding for This is Nashville comes from you, our listeners, and Music City Prep Clinic, Nashville-based provider for PrEP, and offering comprehensive sexual health services in an environment designed to be safe, professional, and shame-free. Learn more at musiccityprep.org.
I'm Khalil Ekolona, and this is Nashville. Today, we're talking about transportation accessibility for people living with disabilities. With development and expansion occurring at a rapid pace, our city can be difficult to navigate. That difficulty is exacerbated for people with disabilities. And as most of us know, living in Nashville and getting around is not cheap. And the costs for people living with disabilities is sky high. So how can people with disabilities afford to live in Nashville? How can they afford to get around? And if they're eager, will they be allowed to work? My next guest is here to help answer those questions. Darren Jernigan is a Tennessee state representative whose term is ending soon. He also works in the mayor's office as the chair of the new Disability Advisory Board. I'd like to welcome him to This is Nashville. Darren, thanks for being here.
Thank you, Khalil. I appreciate the rundown. If I can make one quick correction, it'd be I'm not the chair of the disability committee. I'm the mayor's liaison for that.
Okay.
The first meeting, they're going to elect a chair.
All right. Excellent. Thank you. Thank you for clarifying that for us.
Sir.
And disability advocate Robbie Barbieri is still with us. Darren, let me ask you, how's it going today?
It's going well, and just sitting here listening to Robbie's, I would say, testimony. And I traveled that path as well, and I know exactly what he's talking about, and in the same decisions, the same things of light, and that he is on the right path, and you can make things happen. I've said over and over that there are no defective people, only defective environments. And if you can make that environment accessible, then yeah, it leads to what you were talking about just a second ago. It leads to home ownership and a job and society and the grocery store and church, just everything. But you have to have that fundamental landscape of accessibility and environment first.
You mentioned this, but you had an injury that's similar to Robbie's. Mm-hmm. Can you tell us what happened to you?
Sure. Robbie's a C4-5. I'm a C5-6. Really, the basic difference is that I have biceps. I can move my arms. I don't have triceps, so I can't like lift straight up. But I was 20 years old. I was in the back seat of a car, and it was kind of at that time when there was no shoulder straps for the back seat. It was just lap, and I didn't have mine on. And long story short, I broke one bone, and it was the one in my neck. I spent 5 weeks in Vanderbilt, and then another 4 months at Craig Hospital in Denver, Colorado, recovering. And I was a sophomore at Austin Peay State University when that happened. So it's without going through the whole story, that's kind of, but the same path of what he's talking about at a young age.
Same emotions.
What's next? Yeah, it's one of those things. I did go through the, why me and why God, but then, like you said, there comes a point where, okay, well, why not me? And what if God came down and told me what I understand anyway? And so this is what it is. And I said, it's going to lick me or I'm going to lick it, and I got to make a decision. So I made it and moved forward from there on how I could make it better.
It's happened when you were in school. You took 2 years recovering, but 2 years later you came back to finish your degree. And that makes me think about something, because oftentimes people think that folks who live with a disability will remain static. You know, they'll lose ambition and the fire to live, but that's not the case with you or Robbie. How, in your mind, how off base is that sort of thinking?
Well, no, there's a comfort zone. You know, I can get on Social Security disability, sit home, watch soap operas, whatever it is. And that's not who I am. That's not who Robbie is. That's not there. I can look in the mirror and I can see I am more than what I think people would see. You mentioned what the term disability, and people think in their minds, and the barriers that are set up in their minds. That same barriers are set up in people with disabilities in their minds as well. I can't do this. I can't do this. And it's not until you leave your comfort zone, until you say, okay, I'm going to try that. Because a lot of times it's built in your mind. It's not there. And when you get there, you just improvise on what's there and move forward. And I found that my zone just kept going and going and going. And, sitting at home and living off the government was just wasn't my thing.
Is that drive you're talking about, is that what led you into politics?
So before I've been a public policy kind of junkie. I like that. People should know the laws that they live under, right? And so, but I was a political science major. Of course, like every freshman, I changed my degree 5-6 times. But landed on political science and got a double major in that in public relations. But after the accident, I still wanted to stick with that. But it wasn't. I'd say pigeonholed in just one of just disability issues. I had a wide range of things I wanted to change, and every topic that I had, disability touches it, right? Everyone I know, everyone you know, you yourself will have a disability someday, except for maybe some tragic trauma accident. But it's probably going to be old age. But you're going to get there, and you're going to be grateful that there's laws in place, that as a protected class with disability, because it knows no religion or race or income or sex. It knows none of that. And when it happens to you, it happens to you. And I mean, you can be 95 years old and not have a disability, but I'm just saying that someday, something's going to happen. And I don't know if you ever broke a bone before, but it's temporary. Some of them are permanent. But so I don't remember what your first question was.
I was just asking how
I just kind of rambled on about that.
How you got into politics? No,
how I got into politics. Well,
I appreciate that. Well, it's what you've explained to me is like this drive and this philosophy of, hey, this can happen to anyone at any time.
Correct.
And it's good to have measures in place so that people are taken care of when they are in those situations, either if they were born with it or it happens to them later. And that kind of ties me into this law that you both worked in concert to create. You work together to get this law passed that impacts adults living with disabilities who are on TennCare. And, Can Robbie tell me a little bit more about this law and how you both came together to make this happen?
Yeah. So with our level of disabilities, we utterly and completely rely on caregivers to feed us, dress us, literally just to function. There are no private insurance carriers that cover the cost of caregiving. It is only Medicaid, and in Tennessee, I'm sure everyone knows, is referred to as TennCare. So for people like me and Darren, it's TennCare or bust. So when I got injured and moved back home, it was, okay, I'm on TennCare. I need it. What does life look like on TennCare? Unfortunately, that life is, you need under $2,000 in assets. You need to be under an income limit. And I believe until recently, your significant other was also under those same limits. So I've seen friends where they're getting divorced, they are withholding employment, they're basically remaining at home just so they can get the benefit that they need. And it just didn't seem right. Like, I think we need policies that are in place to propel us, not keep us at home.
So you got together with Darren.
Yep.
And you all worked to create this policy. Darren, talk to me about like coming to your colleagues in the legislature with this idea and this plan to adjust TennCare this way.
Well, yeah, it's a process. So when Robbie, it was someone I think that worked on your, what's his name, on the wheelchair company, and he contacted me and said, "Hey, can I give your number to this fella?" And I said, "Sure, yeah, absolutely." He called and tells me what he wants to do, and because I immediately think, okay, there's going to be a fiscal note to this. There's going to be, my colleagues are not without, Medicaid expansion is not at the top of their priority.
Yes.
Right? So,
yes.
And I'm not saying that's 40 other states have that. And we're just, and we're leaving billions and billions of dollars on the table with Medicaid expansion, but that's a different topic. So, and so the first thing I do is, we're going to have to get some advocates on board. What's our message going to be? How are we going to deliver this? And so we started from there. We started having, and this is going to be August, September, maybe before the January legislative session. So it really was imperative that he didn't come to me in December.
Mm-hmm.
And so at that point, we were able to get advocates together. And so when we're talking about the Medicaid program, there's quite a few options that a state can opt into. One of them is this for adults with disabilities working, and I think only 4 states did not have this option. We were one of 4 states that had not exercised this option. And then you're looking at a 65-35 match. Is that about right?
I think so.
And from the federal government. So we just didn't put 35% in, right? But where are you going to get the money? We came up to our colleagues. We kind of build it as a jobs program, which is very good because we want people to work. We say, look, we're talking about someone buying into the program. We're not asking for free. You're buying into the program. You're working. Now I'm paying taxes. I mean, I'm coming on the positive here.
Mm-hmm.
The message is strong. How are you going to pay for it? But there's what's called TennCare 3, which is a options program that we did a couple of years ago. That the savings that we get, and I know I'm getting in the weeds with Medicaid, but the savings that we get from the TennCare program, that we can reinvest those back into new programs. You can't use it for the general fund. And so this was a new program.
Mm-hmm.
And there was still roughly $10 million out there that hadn't been used. And this program came in about 9.5, and it's paid for. So now we're just signing people up.
Okay, I do want to ask about that. The law went into effect in May. Has anyone reached out to either of you, particularly you, Darren, and talked about how their lives have changed? Have any constituents hit you up?
No, because it's not in effect yet. So what it has to go through the federal government has to go through public hearings.
Okay.
And CARE has to do public hearings to where everyone gets their say. Well, they want this law to now it's going to fly right through. We're not going to be the last of the 4 states that are going to deny, and they've approved 45 others. So it's a matter of time. Once that happens, then yes, you're going to see. But I don't know how many constituents are going to reach out to me because we're not talking about what 2,000-3,000 people.
Yeah.
That's going to qualify for this.
Okay.
I think it wasn't about people that were joining. It's about people that are already on TennCare that want to shift and go to work and couldn't before.
What will this do, Robbie? What will this do for folks? Being able to work when you wanted to, you were prevented. You said something like people are staying at home because they didn't want to lose their TennCare benefits. People are getting divorced because they didn't want to lose their TennCare benefits. Now having the ability to live life as they want. What is this going to do for folks?
I think Darren said it best. Like, this isn't a Medicaid bill. This is a marriage bill, and this is a jobs bill. Just from rounding up other advocates across Tennessee, I've met so many that put their families on hold because they got in an accident. They aren't going to work because they don't think they can work. They think they can only be at home and collect disabilities. And, if you look at other states that have done this right, you compare the unemployment rates of those that are disabled, and it is just a lot different. So I am so excited about this. It's people with disabilities, we often don't get listened to, but when we do, it is a great day, and I'm just very happy about everything that happened. So
I want to thank you both for being here. Robbie Barbieri is a disability rights advocate for the United Spinal Association. And, he is the United Spinal Association Advocate of the Year. And Darren Jernigan is an outgoing state representative here in Tennessee. Thanks to you both so much for being here and for the work that you're doing. Really appreciate it, fellas.
Thank you, Colin. Appreciate it.
Thanks, Chloe.
All right, we're going to take one more break. When we return, we'll hear from 2 Nashvillians, one who was born with a disability, the others whose disability developed later in life. You can always join the conversation by tweeting us at This Is Nashville. We'll be right back. I'm Khalil Ekalona, and this is Nashville. Disabilities show up in our lives in different ways. Sometimes they're present at birth. Sometimes they're acquired later in life. My next guests have been in these situations. How do they approach life and find community to help them? Well, we'll get the answers. I'd like to introduce Jeannie Johnson. She is the immediate past president for the Tennessee Council of the Blind, and Natasha Wilkins, a disability rights advocate. Jeannie and Natasha, thank you both so much for being here. Welcome to This Is Nashville.
Thank you for having us.
Thank you so much.
Really appreciate it. How you both doing?
Wonderful.
Excellent.
Great.
Wonderful.
I'm really happy to have you both here. Now, you both have very different levels of vision, and there's different terms that people can use. Jeannie, can you tell us the difference between visually impaired, legally blind, and blind?
I can. Legally blind means that you cannot see any better than 20/200 in the better eye with correction. A lot of people forget that. They'll say, I'm legally blind if I don't have my glasses on. Nope, doesn't count.
Okay.
And also, or if your visual fields are restricted to 20 degrees or less. Now, I happen to be totally blind, which means I can't see at all. There is no visual image going from my optic nerve to my brain. I have no idea what vision is really like. And a few people, some people who are considered totally blind may have what's called light perception. They can tell if the light is on in the room or if not. but still, for all practical purposes, those people are considered totally blind. And therefore, there are people who are legally blind, such as Natasha, but have a little more vision than that. And my husband is not on the air with us, but he's here. He happens to be visually impaired in that he doesn't see poorly enough to be legally blind. He, I think, has about 20/70 or 20/80 in his better eye with correction, but he really doesn't see well enough to drive either. So that's the short answer.
All right. Thank you so much. Now, Natasha, you developed a disability later in life. Can you tell us what happened?
Sure. So actually, I was born with a condition called retinitis pigmentosa, which is commonly called RP. And even though I was born with it, it did not present itself until I was around 8 or 9 years old. So there was a good period of time that I did live with very good vision, 20/20 vision. And thankfully, we had a very good doctor at the time who caught it when I was very, very young. And as I got older, it is a progressive condition. And I would say maybe within the last 5 or 6 years or so is when I started to lose vision a little bit more rapidly. So I would say with RP, where you have progressive, slow vision loss, or adjustments rather in your vision, it's a constant adjustment.
Now, Jeannie, you were born blind, but you did not let that stop you living in life. You've had some adventures.
Well, I have. I think you know more about me than I realized you knew. But anyway, I was actually a premature baby, so it was the oxygen that caused my blindness. So I've been blind since infancy. And as I explained to people, since I've always been blind, it's as normal for me as seeing is for you. I grew up learning how to walk and encountering things, and I didn't know I was any different from my little playmates who possibly could see what was in front of them and might not have bumped into something. And I don't think I really knew that I was any different from my playmates until I was 7 or 8 years old. So for me, like I say, being blind is as normal as seeing is for you. It's just my way of life.
Mm-hmm. Some people would think like folks who are blind are a little bit shy and reserved, but that don't seem to be the case.
No.
Not at all.
Now, I do want to ask you this, Natasha. What was your life like before the past 5-6 years as your vision began to degrade rapidly?
My life before the vision started to decline more rapidly was me walking out life, trying to push down the fact that I had an RP or put it behind me, put it in a drawer, trying to live around it versus living with it, if that makes sense. Mm-hmm. And don't get me wrong, I did well. I did some very exciting things. Went to college, was very active in college, had have a career, friends and traveling, but it always was me trying to kind of push it back until I couldn't anymore, until, the vision was going pretty rapidly, and you can't, or I didn't want to just kind of fake it till I made it. I wanted to lean into it and embrace it and live way more fully than I did before.
And so in deciding to embrace it, in that decision, you learned Braille.
Absolutely.
And I understand that Jeannie taught you Braille.
She did.
What was that like?
She did. So really quick story. I was always very active before I started to lose vision quickly, and I wanted to continue to be active afterwards. And I do a lot of education, training, speaking, because that's what I enjoy doing. And I was asked to MC an event, and I had on a gown, great heels and everything, and I trudged up to the dais with a huge 19-inch laptop, zoomed in to like 810x, and with my nose pressed to the screen, trying to see, to maneuver this event. And that was my aha moment. Nope, there's gotta be a better way. I've got to increase my skills, my openness to learning new things so that I can not only move better, but make this look better. I want to walk this thing out great and with elegance. And I can't do that with my face pressed into a screen trying to see it. So I reached out to this wonderful woman here who was even a mentor and an influence before that moment. And I said, Jeannie, I got to learn Braille because I want to be able to walk up in front of people and give great presentations, speak well and confidently, and I can do that with Braille.
Is it hard to learn?
Yes. Yes. It is. It is hard to learn, but what makes it worthwhile and what makes it easier is the fact that you remember always the value and why you're doing it. It's the why that makes the most impact on learning Braille. Because if you don't start with that why and understand, I'm doing this to better me. I'm doing this so I can move about life even more fluidly and smoothly and confidently so I can stand in front of a group, sit with my friends at a restaurant and read menus. That's something that Jeannie and I love to do together. Yeah. We'll go to restaurants and ask for a Braille menu. When they say yes, we woohoo. Yeah. And go through that menu and find what we want to eat. And I couldn't do that on my own if I didn't know Braille.
How often are you both finding restaurants that have menus in Braille?
Would you say 50-50 maybe?
I don't even know that it's that much, quite frankly. And sometimes the menus are out of date. A lot of restaurants aren't good about getting them updated when their menus are updated, and they oftentimes do not include the price because they don't update them as often as they should.
No, well, look, there's a lot of restaurateurs and fans of restaurants who listen to this show potentially.
We want Braille menus, guys.
Something can change about that. Now,
absolutely.
Now, okay, so there's a lot of technologies that are out there that will help blind or the visually impaired make it through. But Jeannie, you're a staunch believer that learning to read Braille. Why do you feel that way?
To me, I think Braille, learning to read Braille, if you can no longer use print, is absolutely as important as print is to a person who can still see to read and write it. And even for children, and I was a teacher in my career, and even for children who are just learning, there are those who will want to say, oh, well, there's technology, they don't need to learn Braille. They do need to learn Braille. They need to experience the written word, how sentences are structured, how punctuation is placed. And you can't do that by just using the technology and, for example, using audiobooks. I love audiobooks as much as the next person, but if I had only read audiobooks, I would have no idea, for example, about punctuation and paragraphs and those types of things. And so you need Braille to learn those things. And because of technology, Braille is better than ever now. I didn't bring it with me. I should have thought and done that. But I have something called a refreshable Braille display where I can have books on it and I can read those books in Braille, and it brings up one line at a time, and I push a button and then it brings up the next line. And so, for example, I'm a knitter. I can put that Braille display in my knitting bag, and if I go to meet up with my knitting group, which I do sometimes, hello to those of you in the East Nashville Fiber Friends, I can pull out my Braille display and look at my pattern on the Braille display instead of having to carry a big book of knitting patterns. So that's fun. Or I can carry a Bible or whatever it is that I have where I can put the book that's in Braille on that. So it works out great.
Thank you for that. I want to ask a couple questions about what it's like to get around for you both. Do you both have confidence in the public transportation services that are available to people here right now?
I'm optimistic because I've been using paratransit for well over a decade now, and I know where it was several years ago. I know where it is now, and I know the potential that it has to go. I will start by absolutely saying I am 1,000% grateful for the paratransit system that we do have in Nashville because, like I'm sure we've all shared so far, I live a very full life despite the fact that I'm visually impaired. I'm always on the go. And I would not have that ability to live, have a high quality of life if I did not have the transportation. Is there a need for improvements? 1,000%. Is it perfect? No. Is it great? Does it allow many of us here in Nashville to go to work, go to the gym, go to the grocery store, meet up with friends, or even come to this awesome studio here to meet you? That was all thanks to the paratransit system here in Nashville. So I would say I'm cautiously optimistic.
Okay. Now, on election day, Nashville votes on the mayor's transportation plan. You both familiar with the plan?
Yes.
Oh, yes. And I am so for it. I'm very excited about it because, like Natasha, I too am a paratransit user and have been for years. And I'm so grateful that we have it. I feel really sad for people who do not live in a city environment where we have a paratransit system, because in her case and in my case, for example, yes, we have friends, and my husband and I have some family here in town, but we don't expect them to be at our beck and call if we need to go somewhere. And so the paratransit system really does make it possible for us to have a life, and do the things that we want to do, such as she already mentioned, going to restaurants or doctor's appointments or here. And one of the things that is in the plan is sidewalks, and we so need more sidewalks. I would love to see the day when I have sidewalks on my street. I live on a fairly busy street that's right off of Dickerson Pike. We have no sidewalks. We have lots of ditches near driveways. So even though I have learned orientation and mobility techniques to where I could walk and if a car is coming, scoot over to the side and hope that there's not a ditch over there that I might go into. I just choose not to take those chances at my age. But if I had a sidewalk, I could get out, I could walk around the block, get a little exercise, which would be really good. And I don't have that now. And so I'm really hoping that Choose How You Move will pass. I think it's good in several aspects, including how there are going to be more places where you can get the bus and you don't always have to go downtown to get the bus for another part of Nashville, because there are going to be other locations where you can make good transfers. So I'm all for it.
I got just about a minute and a half left. I do want to ask you both this. Sometimes when people are out, they can get, let's just say they get weird and strange around when they see folks living with disabilities.
True.
How do you want, this is a message to all Middle Tennesseans. How do you all want people to approach you when you see them when they see you out in public?
The same way that they would want to be approached. People with disabilities are not a monolith. We are just a snapshot or a microcosm of the grander community. So we want to be treated the same way that anyone else would want to be treated. And I'll give you the golden ticket. Anytime you see someone with a disability, all you have to do is just walk up to them if you would like to help and just say, "Hi, my name is there anything I can do to help?" That is your golden ticket.
Yeah.
And allow that person the opportunity to share, "Sure, if you don't mind helping me get the door," or "Thank you so much, but I got it." That's the best way to go about doing it. But the most important thing that I would like to share is just to let everybody know that most of the time people's preconceived notions of what it is to live with a disability is probably skewed a bit. So just know that going into it, you might have a skewed view. Like, all people with disabilities are not sitting at home doing nothing. We actually are out and about living. So just approach us the way that you would like to be approached.
Going to Mary J. Blige shows, right?
Oh, absolutely. Amazing. Amazing. Yes.
I want to thank you both so much for being here. Natasha Wilkins is a disability rights advocate, and Jeannie Johnson is the immediate past president for the Tennessee Council of the Blind. Thank you both so much.
Thank
really
you
appreciate
for having
this.
Wonderful.
Thank you for tuning in this hour. This is Nashville is a production of Nashville Public Public Radio. Today's episode was produced by David Hooper. Congratulations, sir. It was directed by Tasha A.F. Lemley. Our technical director and board operator is Liv Lombardi. The masterminds behind our theme music are LaRange and Namir Blade. You can listen back at thisisnashville.org or wherever you get good podcasts. And the conversation doesn't end here. Tweet us at This Is Nashville. Find us on Instagram. Tell us what you want from our show by filling out our quick survey online. You can also call to leave us a message, 615-751-2500. Note, we may use that message on air. This is Nashville. I'm Khalil Ekolona. We'll see you tomorrow, everybody, and be good to each other.